FairyTail, the anime that introduced me to the shonen anime. It truly is a masterpiece, and I'm sad to see it end. From Natsu getting Lucy to join the guild, going on the 100-year quest, this show truly had many adventures. FairyTail isn't perfect, but I think that's why it makes it my favorite anime. I love the connection between all the characters. For instance, the bonding that the Dragon Slayers have in the end because of their same magic type and they fight Magnolia together. Even though their personalities differ, they can work together to stop the impending doom. It is such a fascinating tale on how friendship can go further and create a bond like a family. After all, this entire show is focused on the guild, FairyTail, and Magnolia. We're going to talk about three main things in this video: the plot as a whole, the connections between the characters, and the music. Whether people believe it or not, the music has a huge effect on the viewer's interpretation of the content that they're watching. Anyway, let's get to our first main thing in FairyTail that stood out to me: the plot. I'm going to just go through a summary of what happens in the show for refreshers on some things for people. In the beginning, Natsu, our protagonist, meets Lucy Heartfilia and invites her to join his guild, FairyTail. After that, Natsu, Lucy, Gray, and Urza and Happy all go on jobs or adventures to protect and help Magnolia. This arc is referred to as the Makoa arc. This arc entails the adventure of Natsu and Lucy and Happy searching for Makoa. Once they find him and return him to the FairyTail Guild, the Daybreak arc starts next, which just entails Natsu and Lucy taking a high-paying job that has a lot of risk. The Lullaby arc happens after that, and that's when Urza's inviting Natsu, Gray, Lucy, and Happy to go to Galuna Island, where a dark guild, Eisenwald, is up to no good. This is where we start getting Gray's past, and it starts being revealed to us throughout this time. And then the next arc follows with the Phantom Lord arc, and that's when we get to learn about Gajeel. And this is where things in FairyTail actually, in my opinion, start to get really good. But the Phantom Lord picks a fight with the FairyTail Guild Hall, and both FairyTail and them just fight it out, and then soon we also start slowly learning about Lucy's past. Now, we have an entire arc, like it's kind of a smaller arc dedicated to Loki, which is funny, and he's an actual member of the guild, so to speak, until we learn that he's an actual celestial spirit that's dying because, you know, he's in the real world. He's been in the real world for years, and he befriends Lucy, and Lucy doesn't want him to die, and makes him, she just takes him as one of the celestial keys as a zodiac spirit. And so you still see Loki throughout the series, but he's a zodiac spirit, so you can't be in the real world for long, and that he has to be in the zodiac realm for most of the time. The Tower of Heaven arc is next, when we learn about Jalal, and this is when also Urza's past is unraveled, and you know how her connection to Jalal made a big difference. The next arc is the Battle of FairyTail. It's got an inner conflict between Loxus and his team. That's when Makarov and Loxus' past is revealed during the time. The Rising Sais, Edelis, Tenru Island, 7 years passing, the Key of the Starry Side arc that's about, you know, the key with Lucy's dad, and then the Grain Magic games. All those are really great arcs. They're great and all, but they're not filler, I would say. Some of them kind of feel like filler. They're borderline filler. But they're just little adventures that really get you into, if you like this show, if you like what you're seeing, you're going to like the actual plot of the story, and you're going to like what the point of it is. But I think the story gets so much better after the Grand Magic Games, for sure. The story progresses forward, actually giving an attention on how FairyTail has a huge part in the story. The next arc has a huge effect on the story of FairyTail is the Tartaros arc. FairyTail actually seems almost unstoppable, but when the Dark Guild of Tartaros comes along, they are truly put to the test and need to push past their limits in order to save everyone's lives. It truly was the arc that made me go, wow, I can't wait to see what happens and what secrets are going to be revealed from all these characters' past and just the plot in general. Then the next season happened, the Zero arc, and this arc threw me off on so many levels. I can't even describe how, like, this entire arc threw me off. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know it was a prequel arc until, like, you see this opening, you see all this stuff happen, you're like, what the frick is going on? And after the first few episodes, you're understanding that this is the prequel. This is before FairyTail's been ever been or, you know, ever been created. But basically it's the story of Mavis Vermillion and how she created FairyTail. arcs. Honestly, it's really one of my favorite arcs of the entire thing because it's just so good. And I feel like it's kind of almost a high opinion. I feel like I've heard, but some people actually, at least from my knowledge, only got to the Grand Magic Age in FairyTail if they actually have watched FairyTail. They didn't get anywhere past that. And the funny thing is, after the Grand Magic Games, that's where actually the show's getting good. After Grand Magic Games, the show actually gets better from there. I really don't. I feel like after Grand Magic Games, there's really no filler. There might be a little tiny few filler episodes, but like that's expected in any long anime that's over 300 episodes. I mean, at least it's not One Piece. Hold up, wait, what did I say? Anyway, what's even crazier is that you get to see some of the old FairyTail members later on in the last season. That's the crazy thing. Come to the present time, this year, when they finally just finished the last arc, there is this Alvarez Empire arc. And it's the other empire, it's not the Magnolia Empire. The funny thing is about the Alvarez Empire, actually, is that it's led by, like, Zareth, also known as Emperor Spriggan. They don't know him as Zareth. Well, the Special 12, you know, or whatever you want to call them, they know what's going on. They know it's Zareth. But this truly was a great final season. I honestly don't care what anyone says. Anyone thinks I'm crazy. I really loved the final season. I thought it was, I wouldn't say perfect, but I thought it was just fantastic. I enjoyed it so much. If I'm gonna be straight out honest with you, like FairyTail was my very first one of my first animes. Like I think it was like the third anime I ever watched, and honestly, it really just encouraged me to watch more anime because it was just so good. It had all these adventures. It had great character developments. It really made me happy. I really wish I would have seen the 100 Years Quest in the anime. But you never know if Hiro Mishima might surprise us and actually do it later in the future, which will be happy even if it's like 5 years from now. That's a long time away, but even if it does happen, I'll be happy that it happens. Now I can't guarantee, I'm not a manga reader, but I probably will read the manga at some point soon. Either way, this final arc truly answered a lot of unanswered questions about the characters, the plot, and the point of the show. The whole conclusion I came to is that we found out that why FairyTail was created, to hold a special place in people's hearts and become stronger through the bond that they have with each other. Of course, that's shown throughout the entire show, but that's actually the point of the show. Like, that's the funny thing. You think it's so generic, but it's actually truly the point of the show, that the bond is what makes them so strong and how they prevail through everything. One good example in the final season, I thought, was when Natsu was revealed as E&D, you know, the demon E&D that Zareth created, the most powerful demon, in order to kill Zareth. Everyone knows he is not. Everyone knows he is. Everyone just comes to the conclusion that he's not. They say like he's not a demon, and even decides even Natsu decides he's like, I'm not a demon either. I am a dragon, and I kind of like you know, I kind of was kind of weird in the show. Not gonna lie, but like then it got a little more intense when he was gonna die if he kills Zareth. But Lucy took procedures and rewrote the entire book of E&D. And I'm like, boy, this actually is good. I'm glad they actually did that, because it kind of solidified some things. And because of him doing that, Natsu was able to paralyze Zareth, and that gave the cue for Mavis to come in, and they perished together. That's kind of basically what happened. Honestly, in that moment, I literally, legit, almost made me cry. There are a lot of great things about the show that I loved, and I could talk about it forever. But I don't have all the time for that. Now, let's get on to my second point I would like to discuss, the connections between the characters. I'm just going to be straight with you. I love the connections with all of the characters in the show, but I'm just going to flat out tell you who I ship. I might talk a little bit, might ramble for a second about some connection between characters that aren't romantic, but I love the romantic aspect in some of the of this show and some between certain characters. I am a Nalu person. I love the Natsu and Lucy ship. Like, it's my favorite ship. I don't care what anyone says. They are literally born for each other. Change my mind. Gray and Juvia. Their first encounter, to when Gray finally says he likes Juvia's body, shows the chemistry they have. Like, literally, Gray said that, and I'm like, and Juvia, you know Juvia's head over heels for Gray. So the fact Gray said that, people can't ship Gray with someone else. And also, same thing with Natsu and Lucy, because they solidified it, because Natsu literally said that we're going to be together forever, and he said that to Lucy. Now, he didn't say I love you, but I mean, it really satisfied me as a Nalu fan. It really solidified some things. And also, there was that time, I don't know, there's just been so many scenes with Natsu and Lucy that really have, you know, made that concrete foundation of how they're probably going to be something in the future. Same thing with Gray and Juvia. Urza and Joval, they literally almost maked out. What else do I have to say? I mean, I really don't have to say anything else. They also look really cute together, not gonna lie. Also, if you're watching this guy with a mustache, I love your comments on Funimation and YouTube. Also, let me just say there's nothing wrong with me telling y'all the people I ship. It is very important. I am honest though, the way Makarov leads like a father and the bravery of Natsu to Urza's path for laying out waifus, these characters are some of the best of all anime today. Like, it literally just laid out a path for just many kind of characters we can like in other shows. It really, because the show's been around for a while, and the fact it's ending now really does solidify and show us, wow, look what that show actually did for us, and look what it is doing now to the animes that are coming out now. Even people who don't love FairyTail have a character they just love in the show, because that's what the show is focused on. The show is known for the characters, not the plot, and I sadly just want to say that now, but a lot of FairyTail fans probably will agree with me with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually great. I love that there's these shows that only focus on the characters. Now, there's some plot, yes, and the show needs a plot, but the characters are so focused, like, characterly driven. It's so good that you get into basically you're like, holy crap, I know everything about this character. And that's the great thing about it. Nothing terribly wrong with that, since the show is mainly about the adventures anyway, and that's what I love about the show. Anyway, on to my last point. The music, it is amazing. I love FairyTail's soundtrack and the openings. Sadly, I'm not going to go list what is my favorite because I really don't know. I have multiple favorites, but I'm going to give you a top 5 of what my most enjoyed openings are. They are opening 25 Ashita wo Neruzu. I'll let that play for a second. Opening 15 Masayume Chasing. That's really good for Nalu fans because they flipped that at that last ending, that last literal snippet. Opening 2 of Final Season, Down by a Lot. A lot of people actually commented, like I commented on the Crunchyroll YouTube channel. I said, "Dance with me, brothers. This song makes me want to dance," and I wasn't really memeing because actually the song's really, really good. But the opening is kind of, it does have spoilers in it, I will say that, and it kind of bothered me as well. Honestly, it's whatever. It's really hard for most people now, at least animation companies, to not spoil things. Now, there's some really good production studios out there, like A1 Pictures, who do a good job of not doing that, but A1 Pictures did it in this opening. People were upset. But after that opening, they fixed it, and all the other openings had pretty much no spoilers on it at all. So that's okay. I mean, they just messed up with this opening and had a little bit of spoilers in there. There's nothing crazy where you would... It didn't really make me upset. I loved the song. I'm talking about the music aspect. I'm not talking about the visual aspect. The visual aspect was still really good. It just revealed something I didn't want to see. Also, lastly, something I really enjoyed was the ending to Pierce. It just really was so good. Like, there would be like this. There was one time this ending where it's like you thought Gajio was gonna die, and like you just hear like the music for the ending starting up. And you're like, frick, no, this can't end. This episode can't end. This can't end right now. No way. And it ends, and you're like, frick, I gotta wait till next week, and I gotta wait till next week to freaking watch this. Like, what? And of course, lastly, I actually want to add on to this. The first opening, FairyTail, is so nostalgic and it's so good. And there's so many, all the other openings are so good. All of this, the entire soundtrack of FairyTail is so good. And I feel like a lot of FairyTail fans will agree with me. And same thing with people who aren't even FairyTail fans. The soundtrack is great. Pretty much I love all the music. But those were mostly my favorites. FairyTail is a great show, and I really hope to see an adaptation of the 100 Years Quest at some point. I'm not a manga reader, but I'm excited to see what Hiro Mishima's plans are for FairyTail. Honestly, like, I looked at his Twitter, and apparently he's writing a sequel to FairyTail, and I'm really excited for that. I don't know exactly many details. Not many people do. All I know is if there's ever an anime out for, like, the sequel to FairyTail, I'm gonna be super excited, and I'm totally gonna watch it. What do you guys think about FairyTail? Are you sad to say farewell to it? I know I am. Leave a comment below. I'd love to talk and geek out with all of you guys down there. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the future. Love you all. Bye bye.